a lot of time on this program going over X's and O's, little things that could have gone this way or that way on the ice, strategic choices, personnel choices, player level choices. I'm going to take a break from that today. Good morning to you. Good Thursday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. I just got back from Detroit and spending a couple of days up there with the hockey team. I wasn't as put off by the 4-2 loss to the Red Wings a couple nights ago as some might have been, mostly because I saw the way the Penguins were playing, the way they were pushing as being a very real continuation of what I felt that they'd started in earnest Sunday in beating the Islanders here in Pittsburgh. And if anything, I was actually, in an odd kind of way, encouraged that they could make that event repeatable, because that's actually what has to happen to get this team into the Stanley Cup playoffs again. They have to have a foundation where they can do something like Sunday again, or at least come close to Sunday again. And outside of the first few minutes, and the Red Wings came out all fired up, big crowd, new head coach, New Year's Eve, and they had the early juice, as Sullivan likes to call it. But for 50 minutes after that, and they all agreed to this, I mean, to a man, from Sullivan to the captain to everybody, they were really good. Didn't get all the breaks, didn't have much of a power play in the third period, and the Red Wings then followed up by converting on their own power play. But they were really good. Now, all of that is hockey stuff for the most part. What I'm here to share with you today, and I was thinking about this a lot on the 4-hour drive back, man, this is a good group. And I'm not sure I really appreciated that the way I should have before this week. There's a healthy vibe to the player composition, the mix of personalities, the way they interact, and maybe more than anything else, the positivity. They don't get bogged down or beat themselves up over results. And you can, in some settings, see that as a shortcoming. So I'm going to be more specific here. The game 2 nights ago, that locker room was rough. Okay, players were taking the result hard. They were aware of how well they competed. They were aware of the things that they did that were a continuation of the Islanders game. But they also wanted the 2 points. Notwithstanding that, they would have wanted 1 point since you're down to less than 6 minutes to go in regulation. So they took that hard, like individually and collectively, and then talking to each other. And if you're wondering why I'm bringing this up now, the road is different than at home. At home, in the locker room, you got several media outlets there. You got a bunch of team interns running around and chasing down sound for their own purposes. And on the road, it's the team and a couple reporters at most. So everything's just a lot more raw. It's a lot more like it would be if the doors were closed. You just get to see and hear and experience a lot more. So I liked that they were, not happy with the result, because they shouldn't have been, because it's a lousy result. But then yesterday, Sullivan had an 11 a.m. practice. And remember, the night before it was an 8 p.m. faceoff. So this was pretty unusual. He did that because the Penguins were flying down to Sunrise, Florida to continue this road trip. And today down there, they have a day off. They usually have some kind of fun activities on the beach or whatever. It's not media access stuff. It's stuff that you'll probably end up seeing on social media. But they got their practice out of the way yesterday. And again, it was not all that long after the actual game. So I'm thinking a couple things. One, this is going to be a really low octane session. It's going to be really quick. And third, the players are really going to hate it. And guess what? I was wrong, and wrong. The pace of the practice was nuts, considering the circumstances. Sullivan would later thank his players for the pace of the practice. It extended to nearly a full hour, which is also pretty long for an NHL practice. And the players were having legit fun. Like, you could see guys out there smiling, joking around, even while they're busting their behinds on drills. They were, how do I put this? They were all unearthing their inner Michael Bunting, okay? Sometimes it's just Bunting who does this. He's got kind of that class clown feel to him. This was across the board. Heck, Jesse Puljujarvi, who'd just been put on waivers and doesn't even know where he's going to be playing, couldn't help but get caught up in it. And there were more things that I observed within that. Ricard Raquel at one point pulling aside Yevgeny Malkin and motioning with his arm to illustrate something after a bit of a power play drill. And Gino standing there and just nodding. That tells me a lot about the dynamic. You know, that tells me that it's okay to talk to the superstars. It's okay to maybe even instruct in a certain way the superstars. The way that Sullivan starts a drill that he's never tried before, and there were a bunch of those in this session, and he'll bark out to Sid because he wants Sid to start these. Show him how, Sid, or get us going, Sid. And Sid will just go flying through the thing, and it sets the pace. Everybody's watching Sid do this, and you know you don't have a choice to go 90% on it. See, I could do this all day, but I hope you get the idea. There's a lot here that's positive, and they seem to sense that, and they seem to be embracing that. Now, does that mean they're going to take down the defending Stanley Cup champions again tomorrow night? I don't know. Does that mean they're ever going to beat the Hurricanes, the next opponent? I don't know. So don't hold this stuff against me as if I'm making some sort of predictions or whatever. I'm not into that. I'm into sharing what it is that I'm actually seeing in the here and now. And I like what I'm seeing in the here and now. When we come back, J1Q. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season. From Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts.
Abandoned ship, Bob. Sell the team. Are you a Pirates fan who is angry or apathetic about our perennial losing baseball team? Do you feel helpless because you don't know how to make a difference? Well, good news. We have something you can do about it. Join our Sell the Team movement. We're a group of passionate fans voicing our frustration and demanding change through billboard campaigns, press outreach, protests, and involvement at local city government meetings. Go to OurTeamNotHis.com to get involved.
Today's J1Q comes from John. It's in response to my all Michael Bunting episode earlier in the week. John says, I like him, but how many points would Jake Guentzel have put up by this time on Sidney Crosby's line? Brian Rust or Ricard Raquel could have been there to help Yevgeny Malkin. Yeah, I've done this, John, and I've seen and appreciated, by the way, all of the production that Jake continues to pile up in Tampa. I don't think there's any doubt that, and there never really has been any doubt, that Jake is a creature or a spawn of Jake and not of Sid, counter to what a lot of people on the outside would say about the two of them during their long time together in Pittsburgh. Jake's just a really, really good player. Jake's a natural born goal scorer. It's what he does. He can do other things. He can create offense in a lot of ways, but more than anything, he's a goal scorer. And it should surprise exactly no one that he remains a goal scorer with the Lightning. But I've got two replies to this. One is that you bring in a Bunting and you bring in a couple other guys who are offering something that the Penguins previously did not have. And by that, I mean pre-Jake trade. Bunting for Jake is a lousy trade. All right. There's nobody who would disagree with that, including Kyle Dubas. But that's not what the trade was. The trade was designed to do two things. One, make the Penguins a little feistier, a little more straightforward, a little more going to the net. And two, to bring in additional youth. Now, I need to see a ton more, not a little bit more, a ton more of Vasily Ponomarev and Ville Koivunen before I believe in either of those two. They haven't blown me away to date in the very small sample sizes afforded by training camp, preseason, and then a cameo for Ponomarev. But they both inarguably have potential. Other components of the trade can benefit the Penguins into the future as well. If you're asking me right now, this second, meaning like in advance of the game tomorrow night against the Panthers, who would I rather have, Jake or Bunting? 100 out of 100 people say Jake. But if you accept it as a necessary progression, if you accept it as this team needed to start getting more Bunting-like, even as this team additionally needed to get younger and fresher and faster, then, you're kind of okay with how it's turned out to date. But it's not done. It's not done. Any trade, and I say this all the time, including when the trades are actually made, any trade that involves exchanging youth and prospects and draft picks, that takes forever to decide. Actually, honestly, by the time it's fair to really rule on the trade, most everybody's forgotten about it. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. I'm going to do another one of these tomorrow.